This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and I'm here to let you know that your trauma is not your fault. However, healing is your responsibility. So it's an interesting thing looking at trauma. Sometimes we, as a society, we as a global sort of can make trauma be this like, oh, that person has trauma, right? There is a very, very fine line between trauma and childhood patterns. Most of our personality structures are developed in our childhood years. Most of us actually develop before. A lot of us develop before we can even talk. But the point that I'm making there is that a lot of it's actually out of our control. And so we're simply attempting to, as an organism, build structures in our mind to try and understand the world so that we're safe, so that we're loved, so we're getting our core needs, right? And if you look at the 6 human needs of not just the Maslow sort of hierarchy, there is that, but there are the 6 human needs I think Tony Robbins talked about before. Then there's a couple of things in there such as significance, love, connection that are actually really crucial for the human to receive, and so we go to seek that. Now the interesting thing here is that we seek it externally to begin with. We don't have this understanding that all this stuff that we seek, the feelings we seek, are actually all internal. When something occurs and I feel happy, I've actually got meaning structures that allow me to elicit that emotion when that thing occurs. Because other people don't feel happy when that thing occurs. And they've got meaning structures that allow them to go, well, that means this, which means that makes me feel sad. You see, we control all of the emotion that we feel. I get angry when this happens, but somebody else doesn't get angry, so why am I getting angry? Well, you need to stop doing that because it makes me angry. It's like, well, maybe you should stop getting angry at it. Because it's a person saying, I don't know how to control my meaning structures. I don't know how to control my emotions. So if you just stop doing that thing, then in that case, I don't have to deal with actually facing the difficult things for me. And so this is why it's so crucial around intention. If it's so lost in so many conversations of what the intention is behind what somebody's saying or doing. If their intention isn't got anything to do with potentially, let's say, you getting angry, sad, feeling love, feeling whatever, then you telling that person to stop doing that is because you're not in control of your emotions rather than whether they're acting out of their values or not. There's been times where I've looked at my behavior and I'm sending a text message and I'm like, what the fuck is my intention behind this? And I'm like, I'm trying to get them to respond to me. And then I'm like, why am I trying to get them to respond to me? It's like, well, because I think that maybe they're not, they might be a bit angry at me at the moment or a bit upset with me at the moment. I'm not really sure. And so I'm trying to, and it's just like, fuck, what, like, my intention here isn't what it looks like I'm doing. And so my behavior is like, oh, I just sent a text message. But my intention was to get that person, and it's just like, wow, okay, I put the phone down. It was really interesting. I have a clear memory of that for me. But it's also that occurs in every single moment behind every single thing that we say and every behavior that we do. Like, what's the actual intention? Positive intention is a good question, but what's the intention behind it, and where's that coming from? Because that might be coming from a lack, a place for going, I don't feel enough, so I'm going to post on social media, right? I'm going to post on social media, and that post is going to potentially get attention. It might get people to look at it, might get people to comment, and that'll make me feel better because I don't feel enough as it is. And so this is what's really interesting. This is complex for so many people. Some people might not have any trauma. They had a really good childhood, but they're still heavily connected to their father, so they continually seek approval outside of them. That's not necessarily trauma, but it can lead to traumatic events later on in their life for them. So this is the powerful thing, is that our patterns, our childhood patterns, our trauma that we may have grown up with, it's not really our fault. But the conversation doesn't stop there. We don't need to be a victim to it. As we mature, as we move into adulthood, we have a choice of really taking control of that, of really taking responsibility and continually moving through that. It's funny. I as I was talking just before about posting, the Strong Fit group are doing a No Fix November. You can probably check that out if you just search Strong Fit Community on social media on Facebook, and you'll see a bit more about it. I think the Strong Fit space I really relate with. There's some things there that I see differently, but either way, they've got a good model overall, and it's forever expanding. But the No Fix November. Somebody jumped on the community. I'm not sure if they'll ever hear this or not, but they kind of had a bit of a stab about, I think it might have actually been about people posting and maybe seeking validation, and that's still eliciting the same response that maybe someone would get from chocolate or from caffeine or whatever the case might be. And so the question there that I would then ask, and I'm not sure if I'd ever get an answer, I don't really care either, to be fair, is that did this person point that out for the exact same fucking reason? It's really interesting. Hey, did they go, all this, make sure you're not just doing it for that? It's just like, why does it bother you? Why did you have to say that? What was the intention behind that for you? And it's really interesting because sometimes the things that we're projecting out into and I don't know the answer, just to clarify, I do not know the answer for that person, but the things that we often project out into the world can be a heavy shadow of maybe what we're seeking as well. Not always, and not necessarily in that circumstance. It was just a thought that arose for me and then kind of passed. I thought I might mention that later on as an example, and here we are. Otherwise, the whole concept of this is that we're constantly seeking things, but are we aware of it or not? That's the fucking powerful thing. Are we aware of what our deeper intention is, or are we just, it's just how it is? Because when we say that, we're actually being under-responsible for maybe what our actual behaviors are actually on behalf of. And when we can really look at what our behaviors are on behalf of, our comments, our thoughts, our speech, we can really truly start to understand ourselves. Because we often seek, and I say we as in the general we, of course, to understand others. But so many of us don't even understand ourselves. And therefore, we've got a limited understanding of ourselves and how we operate, and we grab that and then we project it onto other people. You may be astounded to know how often, when I speak to people and we go through personality structures and different types of thinking patterns, meta programs, and peeling all that away, and people are just like, I thought everyone thought like that. And so what happens, and I hear it a lot, it's just like we should set goals like this, or we should everyone, no one wants to feel like that, and it's just like, people love doing this. It's like saying people love dogs. There are a large amount of people that do love dogs, but there's also a very large amount that don't. And that's just a simple example, because some people listening to this go, fuck, I love dogs. And some people are like, take it or leave it, right? And so the interesting thing is just that everyone does think different. We can actually shift people into different typologies, which is actually just looking at really a core belief structure more than anything. It's not looking at how they're meant to be, what they're meant to do, or anything like that at all, or what they were born as that, and that's just that. That's not it at all. It's looking at a core belief structure. But we want to look at not just the output, the behavior and the speech. What I'm pointing at here is the input, the intention. That is the most powerful thing. And when we can get that for ourselves, then we can start to see our patterns, we can start to see our trauma, and we can start to take responsibility for actually making a change in our life. The universe will always respond to us. We think life happens to us. It doesn't. Life happens for us. And what that means is that the universe will respond. If you're sick of being treated like a child, then maybe it's time to stop acting like a child. That's just an example. And grab that word, child, and change it for anything else that you want to change. And on that note, team, I'm done. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me. If you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. If you haven't already, Mood Prep Community on Facebook, jump on it. I'll see you in there. Otherwise, team, I'm out. Until tomorrow, peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.